Good evening. My name is Alex Carlin, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of San Luis Obispo County. I'm going to serve as the moderator tonight for a candidates forum sponsored by the League, covering the Port St. Louis Harbor District, Division number 2. And for that, candidacy or the commissioner position, we have two candidates, Richard Scangarello and Katie Lichtig. They are here with us this evening, and we are going to proceed with them in a moment. First, I want to do a little bit of introduction to about how we will handle tonight's session. First, a little bit about the League. The League of Women Voters is a civic organization, nonpartisan. It does not take positions with regard to candidates, pro or con. We don't. The goal tonight is to provide information, provide the candidates an opportunity to talk with the electorate and to provide information about their thoughts and positions on issues of importance to the Harbor District. This is not going to be a debate. This is simply a civil discourse about issues related to the Harbor District. We have in this group a team of League of Women Voter team that has worked on this as this evening's program. First, we have two sorters who have gathered questions in advance. Shelley Higginbotham and Valerie Steenthwarth have handled that. And then we have logistics support from Shelley Higginbotham again and Janice Langley. We also have a timer. She's on the line here. You should see a box on your screen that says timer. The candidates see that box also. And that is Ann Quinn. She will keep track of the time for each of the candidates. And when they have 30 seconds left in their session, the 30 seconds flag will go up for about 5 seconds. And then after that expires, there will be a stop. So the timer, Ann is serving as our timer today. And Hilding Larsing is there's 30 seconds will appear and then stop will appear. And at that point, the candidates will finish whatever short sentence they have and we'll move to the next question. The process here has been agreed to by the candidates in advance. And we only have a short amount of time. We only have till about 6:40, so we have a lot to cover in that time frame. What we're going to do is each candidate will get a 1-minute opening statement. And then after that, I will pose questions to the candidates. These questions have been gathered by the League in advance of this session. League members attended the last Harbor District meeting. They have solicited questions from the public at that time and subsequently, and we've received over a dozen questions, and we'll try to get to all of them tonight. We will not be taking questions, live questions this evening. There are these functions in Zoom which allow for chats and that sort of thing, but we're not going to be doing that. We just have these prior questions that have been received from the public. The sequence of the opening statements has been agreed in advance by a coin flip, and Katie Lichtig will go first for the opening statements. Then we'll go to the quick Q&As. The first person to answer the question will then be Mr. Scangarello, and then the next time the first person will be Ms. Lichtig. So we'll switch back and forth as to who goes first and who goes second. Who gets the extra 1 minute to think about the question before they have to answer it. Gets a little advantage there. And then finally, we'll end, if we have the time, with closing statements. Let's see here. I think that about covers it. And so if I have anything else I need to cover. Oh, this is being broadcast on the SLO San Luis Obispo League of Women Voters website. It is LWV, League of Women Voters, lwvslo.org. And it will be available after this hour or 40 minutes is over with, so people can watch this later on. With that, why don't we open it up to opening statements? And Ms. Lichtig, you're first. 1 minute, please. You're on mute, so please, we'll have to manage that. Thank you for being on mute, but okay, now your time. Now I'll go on mute.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank the league for offering this opportunity for both of the candidates to be able to introduce themselves to the voters. I want to thank Richard for his participation in this election. I think democracy is helped by having more than one candidate. I think it's fair to say that the port's evolved and will continue to evolve over time. In addition to commercial and recreational fishing, there's safe and beautiful beaches. We maintain the pier. Commercial fishing has become important. And all of these responsibilities require a stable budget. My experience as city manager, finance director, and chief operating officer at multiple organizations, municipal organizations, helped me to be able to provide this experience and energy that will help guide the future. I also want to recognize the fact that I've been endorsed by many, and I'll be able to speak about that going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Scangarello, please. Unmute yourself, please.
I got it.
There you go.
Anyhow, I'm Richard Scangarello. I moved to Shell Beach about 25 years ago. I sold a couple of successful businesses, and I was fortunate enough to retire at age 50. When I got here, I found a passion, and that passion was commercial fishing. And ever since then, I've spent most of my time in the harbor, working with the people in the harbor. And I have a really good relationship with everybody in the harbor. And right now, the harbor runs at a deficit. That can be corrected. And I can go into that later if you so desire. But the wind farm is the biggest thing that's going on right now. And it needs to be addressed, and the potential impact on the harbor. Is my time up?
No, okay, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Scangarello. Okay, now we'll have the first question. And as indicated, we'll go back and forth as to who starts or goes with the first question. So, Mr. Scangarello, this question goes to both of you, but Mr. Scangarello, you'll go first on this one. And the question we have is, what's the biggest challenge you see at the port, and how will you address it as a commissioner? You have 1.5 minutes, sir.
Okay, there are a couple of things that need addressing at the port. One of them is the potential impact of the wind farms on the port. Right now, nobody knows exactly what the wind farm people want to do in the port. They haven't been very candid about that. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And as a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they know what they want to do. They know what the bottom of that port looks like. They know where they can and what they can do. As it stands right now, there's only 3 places that they can manage to bring in a 500-foot ship. One of them, one of the rumors is they would use Cal Poly Pier. Problem with that is that pier is designed to pump oil into a tanker. It's not designed to haul heavy loads. There's no ability to get a big truck out there, turn it around, put a crane, load stuff. And I'm almost out of time. The other one is on the right side of the pier as you go out the pier, and that would eliminate parking and all kinds of problems. The only real place that they could do it, if it wasn't one of those 2 places, is Dog Beach. And if that's what they decide to do, to put a 1,000-foot pier, then everybody in the county that owns a dog will show up with their pitchforks. The fact that they haven't, go on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scangarello. Ms. Lichtig, you got a minute and a half, please.
Thank you. I look forward to being able to explain why I think financial stability is a key issue, what the future looks like for maintaining our commercial and recreational activities, as well as looking at the possibilities and the benefits, as well as the costs of the port associated with wind farms. It's not wind farms in the port, it's actually a support, an operations and maintenance terminal. And I believe that we should know what is being proposed and have a thorough evaluation of it. I think the taxpayers who support the port to the tune of about 45% of the revenue deserve our thorough evaluation of it, based on facts, based on expert evaluations. And really, I have the experience of evaluating these types of developments in my past experience to be able to ensure that it's thorough, it's rigorous, and it asks all the questions that the community wants to know about. And so I believe financial sustainability, evaluating the port, and being able to financially sustain the activities that are in our port right now, including all of the recreational and commercial fishing activities, are critical success factors for our future. And so I look forward to working on those issues.
Thank you. Second question, and this one you will go with first, Ms. Lichtig. Okay, so we're changing the order. But here's the question. Right now, the port relies on its reserves to balance the budget. Do you have an approach and experience that will move the district towards its financial sustainability objective?
Well, I have experience. I joined the city staff as city manager in San Luis Obispo in the height of the Great Recession in 2010. I was able to navigate that with the assistance of our staff and elected officials so that we came out stronger in the long run than when we entered that crisis. I also have helped the city of Santa Monica when it went through the COVID crisis financially. And so, yes, I have the experience as well as ideas about how I would like to see that. But I also think that it's important to engage the staff in that discussion. They are very knowledgeable, the businesses, the commercial fishermen, to make sure that we understand what the impacts of any rearrangement of the budget that is necessary. But I do believe that it is necessary to ensure that we have a balanced budget and one that is sustainable over the long haul, which means that we'll be able to provide the level of service that people have come to expect. And so I look forward to using my experience to help the district find those great balance points.
Thank you, Mr. Scangarello.
Well, I agree with Katie. Balancing the budget and being sustainable is critical to the life of the port. I owned a business in the late 80s during the Jimmy Carter years when the prime rate was 22% and was able to survive and grow and liquidate that business and be able to retire. So I have experience in that area. The other thing is, right now at the port, if you walk out on the pier, at the very end of the pier on the right-hand side, where the restaurant used to be, it's abandoned. There's 20,000 square feet of retail space available there. So far, the port has not developed that. It's been 2 years in the making, and the port manager tells us it's going to take another 3 years to develop that. 20,000 square feet at a very low amount of money would cover half of the negative balance. So there's one place to just start. And she's right. You've got to be able to talk to the people at the port. I know everybody. They have an open line of communication with me. And I've been supported by the union, and I'm supported by the Fishermen Association, the two primary actors out there. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, great. Here's the next question, and you'll start with this one, Mr. Scangarello. I think we got that right. The port is zoned as visitor services. How will you address balancing as between the number of how will you address parking as the number of visitors increases?
Well, there's not much room for parking. Although with the vehicles going away, with the campers going away on the bluff, that will open some parking there. Parking's an issue everywhere. At Pismo Beach, it doesn't matter. But as far as balancing that budget, there's opportunities to generate revenue. And that is an important part of what it's going to take. The parking, there's not much you can do out there. It's pretty limited. And if this wind farm thing goes through, and if they use that side of the pier to do it, you're going to eliminate all that parking that's right there in front of the port office. And that's probably 20%. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lichtig?
Well, I worked in the city of Santa Monica for almost 12 years. And if anybody's been there, there is always parking issues related to the beachfront. We're also faced with the reality that the Coastal Commission has a say in how we use and price the parking in the coastal zone. And so one of the things I bring to the table is relationships, not only with the previously with the Coastal Commission, so that possibly we can figure out the best solutions, but also with the county. I've been endorsed by 3 of the existing the supervisors, including Don Ortiz-Legg, and I would look forward to ensuring that we're having ongoing discussions about how to best manage parking. One of the challenges that we face is that there's different enforcement groups. So the port is enforcing at the lot that is in downtown Avila, but the Sheriff's Department is enforcing time restrictions in the rest of Avila. And so how do we create a great working relationship with the sheriffs and the county to try to maximize the use of that parking, which might not be maximized right now?
Okay, thank you. Next question, and this one, Ms. Lichtig, you will start with, please. Question, how would you balance commercial and recreational uses at Port St. Louis?
Well, those are the critical issues that are in front of us as a commission. And I think that it's important to have really great relationships with the commercial operations out there, whether it's retail or the fishing, the fish market, the fishermen. My goal would be to create those relationships so that I can learn about the pros and cons, what's working, what's not working, and work with other commissioners in developing policies and programs that really help to balance those needs. I think that we do a fantastic job of making a beautiful asset in our community available to both commercial and residents as well as tourists, and really figuring out how do we continue to make that balance with the input of all of those players as well as the staff, so that we have a firm understanding of what the pros and cons are, what the benefits and costs are, so that we can continue to have Avila and the port be a beautiful and fun place to spend time.
Thank you. Mr. Scangarello?
Okay, not being a politician and not being a bureaucrat, I speak pretty directly. And Katie's right. You have to have a relationship with the commercial fishermen, the sports fishermen, the unions, and the staff, of which I already have. Commercial fishermen, 20 years. Sports fishermen, drink beer with all those guys in the afternoon. As far as the guys that work out there, they know me. They've helped me with my boat. I've helped them with their work. That relationship is there. To go in and learn that relationship or develop that relationship with commercial fishermen, it's going to be tough. The guys in the union, it's going to be tough, because that's something that's built over time, and it's trust. And if you don't have their trust, and they don't know who you are, and they haven't seen you every day for 20 years, it's going to be a difficult task. Not insurmountable, but difficult. I love that port. I love the guys that work there. It's a family. It's a small community. We help each other. We understand each other. And that is the crux of what it takes to work and improve the conditions of the port. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next question, Mr. Scangarello, you will go first on this. When this involves wind and environmental issues. Question, what is your position on offshore wind? And specifically, do you support a wind energy operations and maintenance facility at Port San Luis?
Well, this is a difficult question, but I'll answer it frankly. No, I'm not supportive of it. Let me explain something to you about the port. Is a very small town community of historic value. Industrializing that port would take away all of that, all of the imperfect beauty that it presently has. As far as the offshore part, you know that it's like 370,000 acres of ocean that they're going to be utilizing. When the salmon fishermen go salmon fishing in the spring, first thing we do is we take our boats out, we put the lead in the water, and it's attached to a very thin stainless steel line. We measure the impulse off of that line. If the impulse is too high, then there's something wrong with the grounding on the boat. If that impulse is too high, the fish won't bite it. So you're telling me that 370,000 acres of electrical impulse coming across that ocean bottom is not going to affect the migratory patterns of the mammals, especially, and the salmon. They say it's perfect and it won't affect anything. It's a panacea. But you know something? Nothing's perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Scangarello. Ms. Lichtig?
Thanks a lot. I appreciate Richard's candor. I happen to believe that public policy should be based on data and facts. And so I believe that we should evaluate the feasibility study, make sure it's rigorous, make sure it's thorough, make sure that all of those issues that he just talked about are studied thoroughly, and the public gets to participate in that, and that we don't end that evaluation prematurely and before the public can participate in it. The port has been an industrialized port since its beginning. It brought oil and it brought other industrialized items including items that were helpful to the creation of Diablo Canyon. So I think it's a misnomer to say that we shouldn't industrialize the port. I'm not saying that we should do yes or no at this point. I highly recommend that we look at all of the facts, that we ensure that we have input from the public before we actually make a decision. And in my opinion, the question of wind is not before the commission, and so I'm not taking a position on the wind farms.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Let's see here. This is a somewhat similar question, but it probably is a large enough topic that warrants. What is your position more generally on floating offshore wind turbines off the San Luis Obispo County coast? I guess this one deals more with, wind turbines out in the ocean versus the use of the port itself. So Ms. Lichtig, I think you go first on this one.
Sounds good. I was just getting to that as I was talking about it in the last question. And, I have a lot to learn. I readily admit that. I think that if anybody says that they know everything there is to know about wind farms or the operations and maintenance terminal, they're mistaken. I think we deserve to know all of the facts before we take a position. My philosophy is have the best information possible to make the best policy decision possible for the greatest good of the community. And I believe the community has a voice in that. And I don't want to take that away from the community. And we have, thousands of residents who pay for their property taxes for what happens in the port. And I believe that we should be talking to them and engaging them in a real conversation about both the operations and maintenance. And then the county should be doing the same with the wind farms. And I appreciate that some people have made up their minds, but right now I am of the position that we need to actually have the data and have the input from our public in order to make those decisions.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Scangarello, what position regarding wind farms out there?
Well, I'm not an expert, and thank God for that. I've done some research and I've done some reading, and I've talked to some people that know a lot more about this than I do. If you listen to the people that are against it, it is potentially devastating. If you listen to the people that are for it, it is absolutely a panacea. It's somewhere in between, and that's a risk. If you look at some of the wind farms, especially the ones that are in a marine environment and the effect they have on that environment, a couple of them have been shut down because of the problems they created. So, yeah, gather the information, listen to everybody, and then make a decision. And I agree with that. And listen to the people, the voters, because that's who pays the bills. And I'm one of those people. But going into it, 570,000 acres of ocean generating electricity and sending it to the coast is going to affect something. And they can't tell you exactly what it is, because it's either going to be great or it's going to be devastating. And you can't believe, I don't believe the people that are telling me it's going to be absolutely perfect, because nothing in this world is absolutely perfect. And the experts, every time a report comes out, they revise it or they're surprised.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Scangarello. Next question. This one goes to Mr. Scangarello first. What is your opinion on the marine sanctuary, and how do you see it affecting the operation of the port?
Well, right now, if you're talking about the Shumash Sanctuary.
Yes, sir. I believe that's what the question's
Okay.
about.
Right now, the Shumash Sanctuary does not affect commercial fishing. It only affects sports fishing. There are some big problems coming up with MPAs that affect commercial fishing, and those need to be addressed. The intricacy of those are very specific. It restricts an area where you can fish commercially and stays that way for a long time. One of the problems is they institute this thing, and the fish there do not migrate out because they're bottom rock fish. They grow old and they die, and they never move that MPA to another location and allow fishing in the previous location. So it defeats the purpose of what the environmentalists are trying to accomplish. And right now, you know, they've shut down salmon fishing for 2 years. The bureaucrats have been running the fisheries for 75 years, and they came around and told us there's no fish. Well, those same people are telling us how to run these sanctuaries. So again, experts, people that don't know the industry, that try and make policy for an industry. You got to live that industry sometimes to understand what needs to be done. I've been 25 years living it. I know.
Thank you. Ms. Lichtig?
It's fascinating to me that an issue like this can take decades to come to fruition. When I was city manager in the city of Malibu, I actually dealt with this issue on its first iteration. And I think that it has grown and morphed into something that is intended to think broadly about all of the marine life that's out there, both for recreation and commercial fishing, as well as the recreational aspects of it. And I generally support it. I think that they've tried to make some decisions that will allow both commercial and recreational fishing to continue to thrive. And so I'm looking at it as another evolution of trying to protect our coast. I think that I'm sure that there's, as Richard mentioned, my parents used to say perfection is only a word in the dictionary. And so I'm sure it's not perfect, but I do think that there's been lots of input, lots of negotiations, and I'm generally supportive of the sanctuary.
Okay, thank you. We're now at approximately 6:40, which is the ostensible time for terminating this. But if you two are amenable, maybe we can have a couple more questions and then go to closing. Would that be okay?
Sure, I'm okay.
It's good with
Okay.
me.
Okay, great. All right, so we still got, I'll try to get to a couple of these questions. Here's one, and I believe Ms. Lichtig, you go first here. Question, what are the characteristics of a good board member, and how have you demonstrated those qualities with your recent experience?
Well, thanks for the question. I've worked for a lot of elected bodies. I think that part of the goal will be, and one of the responsibilities is to balance and compromise. I don't think that there's a policy that comes from any of the extremes, either positive or negative, that tend to work over the long haul. And so my view of the world is that we need to be listeners. We need to be able to analyze. We need to be able to figure out creative solutions to balancing the budget. And we need to work with staff to manage and set expectations for them so that they can then turn that into action. So my belief is that the best elected official is the one that is able to articulate the goals to support the majority of the commissioners moving forward, but along the way, expressing their opinions and being able to get two other commissioners to go along with their perspective on particular policies, because policies are not made by individuals, they're actually made by a majority of the commission. And so I think that I have the support of people like 3 mayors of Grover Beach, of
Thank
elected.
you. Thank you, Ms. Lichtig. I think we've got that. Now, Mr. Sangarello, same question. What are the characteristics of a good board member and how have you demonstrated those?
Knowing what you're managing, knowing how to manage it. Now, if you look at the board as it exists right now, one of the board members is a commercial fisherman, 35 years. One of the board members is a retired Fish and Game. So those two understand the intricacies of the fishing industry and of the history of the port. They've been around longer than I have. And she's right. You need to be able to have a dialogue with everybody that you're dealing with. And that, again, is trust. Fishermen are an interesting group. They don't trust everybody, especially if they come from a background, if they have to know that you know what that you're talking about. And the guys that work at the port, they have to know that you use the things that they fix. And that relationship creates that dialogue, and you get the information you need to make decisions on and recommendations on what goes on in the port. It's pretty simple. It's not brain surgery out there. It can be fixed. It can be fixed pretty easily.
All right, thank you very much. I'll do this one last question and then we'll go to closing statements. And let's see if I can read it here. Share a community issue you have resolved by bringing together a group to solve it. Explain how you did it and the end result. Mr. Sangarello, you go first on this one.
Okay. Well, it's an ongoing issue and it's not resolved yet, but we're working towards it. Right now at the port, the morale with the business owners and the employees is at an all-time low. And there are some things that need to be corrected in order to change it back to the way it was. Because 2 years ago, it was a happy place to work. It was a happy place to be. It's not that way right now. So that's an issue that's got to be dealt with. And the people that you're going to deal with are going to be the commercial fishermen, the sports fishermen, and the employees at the port. In the past, I've owned large businesses and I've come up with solutions for problems. I mean, you know, if you were around during the Jimmy Carter years and you had a business, you had to have solutions, and those solutions had to meet the bottom line and keep morale up and keep the business flowing in the right direction. And the port needs to be, like Katie says, it needs to become self-sufficient, and it has that ability within the infrastructure that's there if it's developed, which is the pier and the 20,000 square feet outside on the end of the pier. So if you just figure out, you know, if they get $30 a square foot in, never mind. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Ms. Lichtig? Your turn. You're on mute.
Got
So.
it. Thanks. During the course of my 40-year public service career, I've negotiated with employee groups. I've negotiated the settlement of lawsuits. I've negotiated with PG&E over the closure of Diablo Canyon and brought $10 million to the table for economic development for the cities within the county. So I have a vast amount of experience solving problems collaboratively with developing relationships And I believe that I can build those relationships quickly and effectively through communications, through being present with the stakeholders in the port. I respect Richard's view, but fishing is not the only issue that's facing the port and making sure that they're sustainable. Don't get me wrong. I think it's an important part of the history and um, the, the heart and soul, but it's not the only one. And so I do think that those experiences that I've had bringing very diverse groups of people together to solve long-term problems is evidenced by the people who are supporting me in my quest to become a commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Now it's time for closing statements. And since Ms. Lichtig went first on the opening statements, Mr. Scangarello, you, sir, get to go first on the closing statements. And these are 1 minute, please. So, floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Katie's right. The port needs to be sustainable, and it's way more than just commercial fishing. And like I said, if the end of the pier, 20,000 square feet of retail space, if you're in Avila and you get retail space, you're paying $30 a foot. The port's never going to get that kind of revenue, but it can get a pretty good chunk of that revenue. And if you do the math on 20,000 square feet, that pretty much takes care of most of the deficit that is there. So, wow, that was fast. Anyhow, I run a business. I've negotiated with unions. I had 200 employees, and half of them were union members. And I went through 3 contracts with them. So I know how to negotiate, and I know how to come up with the right solution. That she's right, not everybody. So everybody's not happy, and that's the right solution. So, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Lichtig, closing statement, 1 minute. You're on mute.
I got it. Sorry about that.
Start over. We'll start you
Okay.
over. Okay.
I do appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself to voters. I've been out there walking neighborhoods and learning about the issues that they think. I'm endorsed by 3 existing supervisors, by 3 mayors of Grover Beach, by the former mayor and elected officials in Pismo Beach. They know that I can do this job and I can do it well. I've been in the policy realm, not for a short amount of time, for decades. And I think that I bring an energy and experience and a love for the dog beach, which is where I take my dog regularly, and also for the rest of the assets that are in the port. And so I look forward to representing the voters of the district. And I just want to thank those who have endorsed me, including Jim Blecka, who is the sitting commissioner and has definitely been an asset of me learning about the port.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. The league, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I would like to thank Mr. Scangarello and Ms. Lichtig for participating in this forum this evening, for getting out there and running for this office and putting their selves on the line to try to inform the citizens. This has been, I think, a very civil and productive discussion, and I appreciate your civility and, you know, intelligent comments on the questions that have been asked. We also want to thank the members of the public, the people who asked the questions, who bothered to submit some questions ahead of time. And I think they were some pretty good questions for what I know. And I think you answered them thoughtfully. And finally, I would like, on behalf of the league, to thank the people who have been participating and sitting in on this online, you know, live presentation. And let everyone know that if they want to see it again or show this to their friends, this will be on the League of Women Voters website. and San Luis Obispo League of Women Voters website, so that anyone can see it anytime between now and the election. So thank you again. I'll go close it with that and ask everyone to get out and vote. We got 3 weeks to go. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll close it with that.